Hey Scotch lovers, Mark from Scotch for Dummies. I want to talk to you about a topic that I found in our comments as I've been perusing through it. A couple people have made these comments over the last 6 months to 12 months or so, and I thought I would make a short video about it and hopefully help some of those folks out. So this video is going to be intended for our inexperienced Scotch drinkers and to try to help them nose and taste a whiskey and get something out of it. But if you're experienced at it, I really invite you to watch it because I'd love your comments to add on to this to help those folks out, and hey, we all learn from it. So my first suggestion is kind of like rule number one, my golden rule, and that is that you're never wrong when you're drinking a whiskey. And what I mean by that is I want you to drink your whiskey the way you enjoy it. So if you enjoy it neat, if you enjoy it with water, if you need a rock, maybe you mix it with something, a soda or something, drink it the way you're going to enjoy it, because if you're not going to enjoy it, there's no point in drinking it. So let's get that aside. That's golden rule, don't forget it. A couple of other tips that I want to talk about before we really get into this glass that I have poured here is a couple of general tips that I want to give. And my first general tip is when you're exploring a whiskey, when possible, do it with friends. To explore a whiskey, you're going to draw on your life experiences. With a group of friends, more experiences to draw from. Not to mention, they're going to expose you to some things you've never had. Case in point, watch a couple of our other videos where Sean exposes us to some marzipan. Never even heard of marzipan before I started this adventure. Now I've reviewed it. So that's a good example. A second tip is that if you're going to get into the Scotch drinking and appreciation, trying to dig into what you taste and smell in Scotch, start paying attention in your everyday life about what you see and smell and taste. When you're at a restaurant, you taste something new that you've never tasted before, try to make a conscious effort to really remember that. Hey, what is that? You know, you have more experiences to draw from when you are tasting that whiskey or smelling that whiskey. Next tip, don't eat powerful foods before you're going to try a whiskey. If you eat, a real strong curry, Indian food or something very spicy, Mexican or something, it's really going to kill your taste buds for tasting that whiskey, and you're not going to get what you really want to get out of it. So just pass on the powerful foods and enjoy your whiskey. Next tip is to do a little research on your Scotch. And I'm not saying that you need to go down and be, some super detective or spend hours on Google, but try reading the bottle. I mean, it's a stupid suggestion, but really pick up the bottle or the box and read what the distillery thinks you're supposed to be smelling and tasting out of it. Hopefully you do. You might not, and if that's the case, they missed the boat. But hopefully, they at least steer you in the right direction. And the final tip, the general tip that I want to give is when you're nosing and tasting whiskey is don't be afraid to say anything. If that's what you smell or that's what you taste, say it. I don't care what it is. I've been on record saying I taste rubber tires and, smell sulfur, and heck, I've even said I've smelt vomit on one Scotch. I'm not saying that in a bad thing. That's just the smell that I equated it to. That's the experience that I had when I smelt it. So throw it out there. I think you're going to find it gets easier when you start opening up and really it's almost like a brainstorming session. If you look at some of our earlier videos, I think you'll see Drew does that a lot, and I really appreciated him doing that, just throwing out words that I probably wouldn't have equated in a whiskey review because I'm supposed to be, somebody that knows what he's doing, but just throw it out there. Bubblegum was one that he used to say a lot, and I used to laugh at it. I think he's changed it to cake batter now. So when you pour a glass, if you have the opportunity to let it air out a little bit, I suggest it. Let it sit for a little bit. Maybe we don't do it as long as we should on our reviews, but we try to keep those reviews short. So let it air. I've had this one sitting out for a little while. The next tip I want to give you in the nose process is really make sure you're nosing your whiskey throughout the entire dram. You're going to get an initial nose after you take your first sip, all the way until you finish that glass. Heck, there's been times where I sit there and just sniff an empty glass just because I love the smell of Lagavulin. It's because your olfactory and your taste buds are so closely tied together that it really is something that you need to do hand in hand. So throughout the whole time drinking that glass, make sure you're taking a whiff of it every now and again. Big tip I want to talk about in nosing is when you pour that glass, or you're finally going to approach it from a distance, approach it from midpoint, maybe up close. Try one side of your sinus, the other side. Take a whiff with your mouth open, breathe some air in. See, when I do that with this Scotch, it's totally different than when I just stick my nose in there and don't take any air in with my mouth. I almost get like a chocolatey smell when I take air in with my mouth on it. A vanilla, really hard vanilla when I do that. So The tip is to make sure that you're nosing it in different ways throughout the whole process. If it's a strong island, you're going to smell it from here. The second thing, and it really doesn't have as much to do with the nose, is to pay attention to what it does on the inside of the glass. Is it oily? Is it sticking to the inside of the glass? It's going to give you an indication on what you can expect once you take this liquid into your mouth. Is it going to coat my mouth? Is it going to leave a dry feeling? It gives you kind of an expectation of what's coming. I'd say this one's fairly oily. I can see it clinging to the side of the glass, and they refer to these long lines coming down its legs. It's got plenty of legs on it. I have a good idea what to expect here. Now, some people will suggest that you need to wash this whiskey in your mouth for 1 second for every year it is old. Again, I think that's overkill, because if you're drinking a 21-year-old whiskey and you're sitting there sloshing around in your mouth like it's Listerine for 21 seconds, you probably missed the boat on it. You definitely want to coat the inside of your mouth and your entire tongue, because your different taste buds across your tongue are different receptors, and you want to make sure that you're really getting a good taste. The first taste of this whiskey is probably going to numb your mouth a little bit, because it's got it's got alcohol in it. So the first taste is going to be a little bit shocking to your mouth, but that's all right. Take it in there, wash it around your mouth. Pay attention to what you're tasting. Pay attention to whether you're getting distinct flavors. Does it taste like it smelled? Let's say you get 3 different flavors, A, B, and C. Do you get A, and B, and C? Or do you get A and then a combination of A, B, and then B, and a combination of B, C, and then C? Does it blend well together, or is it just 3 distinct flavors? Maybe it's just 1 flavor, and that's fine. Hey, maybe that's what that Scotch was made to do. But pay attention to it and really try to put it to memory. And think about, what it said on the bottle. Am I getting that flavor? Is this tasting like it smelled? You can actually start putting the puzzle together. As you swallow that first sip, I want you to pay attention to that aftertaste as you wash it down. You get a spiciness out of it, or some alcohol burn. Sometimes, if it's real high ABV, the alcohol might burn up through your sinuses a little bit, and that's, pay attention to that too. Don't confuse an alcohol burn with the flavor of a spiciness or whatnot. But pay attention to your aftertaste. Some scotches are going to last for 5 seconds and be gone. Some scotches are going to last for 5 minutes or even 10 minutes. I mean, sometimes a real strong scotch will, and I don't mean strong as in alcohol, I mean like a good strong island, might last for a long time. A real slow drink, really enjoyable. But pay attention to it, because you want to savor that. And while you're doing that, take and sort of wash the inside of your mouth out with your tongue. Really try to explore the inside of your mouth, and you're grabbing all those flavors and really kind of grabbing a hold of them and identifying them. Once you've gotten past that, you take your little breather, you go in for another nose, compare what you're smelling to what you tasted again, and get ready to take that next sip. And when you get that second sip, I think that's where the magic happens, at least for me. And I say that because now I've smelt that whiskey for a while, I've tasted that whiskey, the alcohol numbness in my mouth is already passed, and I'm going in for that second taste, and I'm actually going to start committing things to what it's not just in pen. I'm not just saying I think it's this, now I'm locking it down. So really pay attention to that second sip. Go through the process a little bit more. Maybe you don't need to wash around your mouth as long. You're repeating the process of the first one, and you're really trying to nail it down. Now, if you're really going to get into a whiskey and you're really trying to hack it down, you're going to reveal it, you've never tasted this whiskey before, maybe you need to explore it a little bit more and put a little water on it. I honestly think every whiskey's got a sweet spot with water, and some whiskeys that's no water. That's the sweet spot. But every whiskey usually has a sweet spot when it comes to water, and hopefully you don't overwater it to find that sweet spot. Every time you change what's in your glass, whether you add a few drops or an ice cube, or God forbid you mix it with something, you've got to go through this whole process again. All right, you got to go through the nose. You got to go through the first taste. You got to go through the nose again. You got to go through the second taste. It's a wash and repeat type of thing. You will find water changes. There is something that goes on chemically in there, that liquid, when you add some drops of water. But every time you change it, you need to repeat those processes. And once you've done that, to every style that you're going to drink that glass, I think you will have really hammered out what you're going to get out of that glass, and you should be able to really pinpoint, whether you like it or not, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, what you smell and what you taste, and hopefully those go together well. I want to close with golden rule that I opened with, which hopefully you haven't forgotten because it's really that important. But that is, you're never wrong. This is your dance with whiskey. You know, dance the way you want. So it may be different for each glass, and that's fine. Enjoy it the way you want to enjoy it. Otherwise, it's not worth your time drinking. Hopefully you've subscribed to Scotch for Dummies. If you haven't, hit the button now. I appreciate you hanging around and giving me some of your attention. If you've got some tips and tricks or some other suggestions that I haven't hit on, please comment. I'm sharing with everybody else. That's kind of the point of Scotch for Dummies. You know, we've been sharing this for 2 years now. We've been having a lot of fun along the way and hopefully providing a little entertainment to you. So in the meantime, subscribe and make sure you get the notices because we'd love to see you on our Thursday night live shows, 10 p.m. Eastern, and we'd love to see some of your comments on our future reviews. So, Sláinte.